Watch for sure. There's a mess down here. You really want to do this?
Yeah.
Now, this crap here, I had a son that moved to Canada and left his shit behind. And you can see here, bit of crate diving. There's 3 crates full of records. I mean, what is this shit?
Yeah, boy.
Oh, the Clash. What? Rock the Casbah. There you go. Let's go straight to the pool room.
We'll just cover them up for another
we'll
day.
Just cover it up and forget about them now.
What's going on with these JBLs?
Well, there's some old ones I inherited. I want to fire them up again. Some people have a really affection for JBLs, different models, although these are only baby ones. It's like a studio monitor type, these are. So they have a particular sound themselves. You can see the hole there, that's what we call bass reflex or vented. So
yeah,
the bass pumps out through the hole. So I'm not really a fan of vented boxes. Yeah, so I got this amp. It's a NAD, NAD, in the 90s. So I've still got it. It's got radio, FM radio built in. The reason I got it was what you could do with this is you can have all sorts of inputs, right? Including, that was back in the day, you'd have tapes, so cassettes. So I'd have a cassette, I had a Nakamichi 480 plugged in. But what you could do, the neat thing you could do was like, you could put it on, say, listen to the turntable, the phono, have a CD playing into it, and record the CD onto the cassette while you're listening to the record.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, this old baby, this is my first CD player I ever bought. I bought this in 1985. It still works, but the draw is kind of a bit. Let's try. Oh, there we go. So it used to be really slick. You'd hit the button, and it would just go straight out.
Like really quickly, or
yeah, really quick.
Oh, really?
The internal mechanism is fantastic. So that spins, and you've got a laser that moves. So and it drives the mechanism that moves the laser. It's like on a worm gear on most of the things. Such this mechanical thing that's quite slow. So if you pick a different track, you know, it's got to go rah, 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 to move to play it.
Right.
This thing, the laser is mounted on electromagnetic rails, so it just goes. So in hindsight, because you know, once you went to CD, you go, oh yeah, sounds great, sounds better than records. But if you'd spent the same amount of money on a good turntable and cartridge, you probably would have had same kind of sound quality, you know. So it was a bit of a trick, really. These are some overflow records, but most of these aren't mine. All of these here and there, they're all my friend Jeremy's, and most of these are all Motown records because he doesn't actually have a permanent residency, so I wanted to make sure his records were looked after. So I've got them all here. I play some of them occasionally and discovered some really good stuff.
Oh, the four tops are great.
Yeah, like this is one of the recent ones I played. Given I didn't buy these, so that was probably the second record that I ever owned. It was given to me. I didn't buy this. I didn't pick it out. This was given to me. But I've still got it.
Wow, who gave it to you?
Might have been Mum and Dad, I think. Because they bought me a really cheap plastic record player. It was the worst sounding thing you've ever heard in your life. Had these plastic speaker boxes about so high, with a masonite back and one speaker in it. It was just dreadful, and I knew it, and I hated it. So I couldn't wait to get working, save up enough money. In my first year working as an apprentice telephone technician, I think I was about halfway into the year, and then I bought my first Sansui amplifier and some Sansui speakers. I started rocking from there.
I don't know, it's got Johnny Cash on it.
I'm not saying it's bad.
20 red hot hits.
Yeah. This would have been pre-74, probably maybe 73, I guess. Now, I don't want to get the light on it right, but you can see there's a lot of tracks on each side. So each track is only about that wide. Now, to fit that much music on a record, something's got to go. So quality goes. So to cut the grooves that close together to fit the song on, the first thing to go is the bass. Because for bass...
It's a tragedy.
I know. So yeah, if you're going to bass in a record, you've got to have room between the grooves to cut that in. If you reduce the bass, then you can cut the grooves closer together and fit more songs on the record. So many of these compilation albums just don't sound good. This is the GIMP room where the GIMP comes to work. As you can see, this is a very salubrious area. Not many people have seen this space. Whoever's been in here has made a huge mess. When I get a hold of that fucker, I'm going to sort him out, I tell you.
So you got more speakers down here too.
Oh shit, yeah. Got to have speakers. Oh, have a look at these. These are some rear antennoids. Look at those little babies. So they got a super tweeter on top. So it puts out sound you can't even hear. I don't know what the purpose of that is. I don't know.
I've heard them. They sound really good.
Yeah, so you got to have music while you're working. Yep.
Yeah, so this is your workshop, and this is where you do all your...
When I work, I come and put my cooking apron on like this.
Men love pudding, and I love men.
Say no more. So I fix things called racing transponders. They're used in race timing systems to help them count the laps. That's used in full-size motorsport. So there's, sedan cars you see racing. And the purpose of this device is, you see it's got a number, that's a unique 7-digit number. All it does is you charge it up by the two terminals, the light flashes and it fires out a signal. And then the timing system picks up that number and registers the car each time it goes over the start-finish line. Simple as that. So it's not a complex device. Basically I fix them. The main thing that goes wrong is that the rechargeable battery dies in them. It's a sealed unit, as you can see. There's no screws or anything you can open, so I basically got to cut them open and fit a new battery. And then they're good to go again. The company that makes them aren't interested in fixing them. This is my invention. I can actually do your teeth if you like as well. No problem.
Oh, yeah, cheers.
But I'd have to put the bigger tip on, put something, get into it. So this is one of the major tools I use to access the battery inside. I've got a vacuum cleaner mounted outside that sucks, so it helps because you generate a lot of dust.
So it sucks and drills at the same time.
Sucks and drills. Yeah, it sucks and it drills. That's right. Yep. Sucks and drills.
And so this tube is hooked up to a vacuum cleaner, which is
outside
there on the other side of the wall.
Yeah. Keep the noise outside.
Right, because you want to be listening to music while you're working.
Well, yeah.
Wait, what's going on with the switch here?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that switch.
Oh, did you wire that up yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, look, mate, you've got a lot of work to do with the cable management down here.
True.
So this switch just turns on the vacuum cleaner and the Dremel at the same time?
Yep, I hooked that up. Otherwise you'd be forever, reaching for switches. Yeah.
So this switch up here...
That's the master switch. So you hit that and all the power in here goes off. I built this room myself. It used to be my black and white dark room because I used to do black and white photography and develop the film myself and print it myself. Here, instead of all this crap, there was a photo enlarger. So one of those things has the base plate, the big arm and the big head on it, and you put the negative in the top of that and it project the image onto the paper. These shelves didn't used to be here. The bench used to continue to there, and then I had a wet area, so there was a double sink, and so that's where you would set up your 3 trays of developer. So I used to have a red light mounted on there, and you see all those weird maker switches, so I had it set so you flick a switch, the main lights would go off and the red light safety light would come on. Once you've got paper out, you've got to have the safety light on. So then you drop the paper in the developer, wash bath, and then there's a fixer at the end.
How did you get into photography?
Oh wow, okay, that's a good one. How did I get into photography? Children, used to be a camera that was only like about this big, and it took film, and it was called a 110. So the negatives were like really small. So basically, the images out of it were shit. And I had one of those, and I was just really frustrated with it, I think. And I'd gotten married, and I was having kids, and so I wanted to be able to take good photos of the kids growing up in the family, because from my childhood, there's a couple of shots of me as a baby, there's a couple of shots of me as a teenager, and that's about it. So I wanted to not have that for my kids. I wanted to have lots of photos. I guess that's what started me, and I bought a traditional film camera, because that's what we had back then, a proper SLR. As a result, I got albums and albums of family photos. But as a sideline, I ended up interested in black and white photography. Got heavily into that. I really enjoyed photographing people, and so I did a lot of like portrait stuff. Some weird stuff.
And some weddings too, right?
Oh yeah, because I was kind of a bit of a camera nut. My brother-in-law was getting married, and he said, well, you're going to do our wedding or we don't have anyone. I thought, shit, okay. So I sort of boned up on what you should do, photograph their wedding. They liked it. Their bridesmaid liked it. So when she got married, she asked me to do it, and it just went from there. So I ended up doing it like semi-professionally. That'll get banned on Facebook. It's got nipple. Oh, look. So that was, that was 2006. Somebody put all this crap here. So these are special batteries I get made up to put in the transponders. There's different types. Many of them probably haven't seen one like that.
Never seen a battery like that before. They look like sticks of gum.
Yeah, well sometimes they call it that. Actually, that's a nickname, but they're actually called prismatic. So I get them custom built purposely for a particular transponder that I repair. So you can't buy that off the shelf.
Is this your new laptop, is it?
Oh, you like that laptop? How good's that?
Look, it's got a floppy disk drive.
It still goes. Check this. You'll love it. So like I said, this laptop is from last century. So it's from the 90s. Still runs. It's an old Acer. And it's that old that the plastic is getting brittle, and you can see that just spontaneously fell off. You can see all here.
Oh boy.
So I don't open and close it anymore because that's just going to break more. So I just leave it like that. The only purpose for this notebook down here is that so that I can run this particular decoder. This is one of the devices that are used to read the transponders. So it's for these sort of transponders. These were used in remote control car racing. So they charge up, and you can see this thing here is simulating what would be in the track at the start finish line, what we call a detection loop.
Right, and that would be like dug under the ground.
Yeah, it only has to be under the surface so far. And when the transponder goes over it, it picks up the signal, goes into the decoder, it interprets it, and then fires it into the computer, and then you run some race management software, and it detects it. So I can hit up the transponder test mode, and then if I wave that over...
Oh, there you go.
Woohoo! So that whole notebook, that's its only purpose.
It's a simple life
Yep.
for that laptop.
But the thing is, see, this old decoder, it works via serial, the old RS-232 serial port. I think this is the one. Look what happened to the, yes, look what happened to the screen.
Oh.
It's actually like...
Oh, it looks like it's someone's...
it's like melted or something. It's really, I've never seen anything like it.
Looks like someone's gone over it with sandpaper, but yeah, it looks
That's just happened on its own.
How old is that laptop?
Well, this is the same vintage as the other one, so it's from the 90s. Probably the latter half of the 90s.
Oh, that's bizarre.
Yeah.
I can smell like electrical smells.
Oh, yeah, it's almost like what film smells like in a way. And you like this? The motherboard battery died, so rather than getting the right one, I just...
Oh, is that the CMOS battery?
Yeah. Pretty pro, eh?
What the fuck?
And you like the clip on it to hold the... Yeah, I know.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
Yeah, they're so old. That's why I'm surprised that one still goes. You can't buy these anymore. That's a Sonos controller. Look at the size of that baby.
Oh, that's a thick one.
So if I want to move down the list, I've got to run my finger around and around like this.
Yeah, like an old iPod.
That's it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
When did you pick up this Sonos?
Well, this one, it was many years ago. I started with Sonos, so this is original gear. So I was an early adopter of Sonos. It suited my purpose that I wanted to have all the digital files on a NAS, a network drive. Meant you didn't have to have a computer running, and this just accesses the music. So this is the controller they used to sell with it. They brought out a later model which is a touch screen, and then they got rid of the controllers altogether and you just have an app on your phone. So these are actually legacy now. You can't buy these and they don't sell them. In fact, they've made a firmware update that will kill this off. So I've blocked my router from accessing their update so I can keep it running. But it's really handy in here.
You still use it?
I still use it. So all it's used for is, play, stop, and to see what song's on. I can show you one upstairs, but that's the Sonos box there. So it's got an amplifier in it as well, so you can run speakers directly off it. So it's driving those two speakers, the tannoys you saw.
Are they powered speakers?
Yeah, no.
Oh, they're
passive.
not.
So that's what I'm saying. It's got an amp in it.
Oh, okay.
So it's the Sonos digital streamer plus an amp as well. So, but you've got straight audio out, so that goes out into this just old crappy amp here, purely to use as a headphone amp into this arrangement here. These are the headphones you normally use, or earmuffs to kill sound. Yeah, so I've modified it. So that's a headphone driver I've mounted in there, and see that plastic, the grey plastic there. That's a bit of wastewater pipe cut to mount that on. Yeah, because the sound quality of the drivers it came with standard were just shocking. They were really bad. I mean, it's better, but it's not great.
But it's good because it's like a hearing protection for like all the noisy tools you have.
Oh
right?
yeah, so I can put that on. I'll be listening to music, and this can make a lot of noise. So you imagine hours of that.
Yeah.
What would you rather listen to, that or some music?
True.
Yeah, so this is what we call a Badinsky. So this is like a test phone. I've changed it from what it originally had. It used to have a special connector on it that you could plug into the what we call the mainframe. So that's where the street cables come into the telephone exchange, and you could plug in that and listen across the line, and you might hear noise or whatever. And then you've got this switch that you can click and actually loop the line to get dial tone. And then young people, and you would use this to dial a number. So if you want to dial me, you go 07. That's my old phone line. 3 5, and so on. So that's what you call decadic dialing. So all it did was open and close a short across the telephone line, whereas nowadays you use tone dialing, so it sends a tone for each particular number.
And after you were working with the exchanges, you moved into like a IT role.
Yeah, that's right, I did, because it was still within the construction side of the company. So I ended up supporting all of the field staff, because that's when it really became a need to use laptops for the field staff to talk to the telephone exchange equipment, because it was all starting to be more computerized. Because when I first started, telephones exchanges were electromechanical. And so yeah, it just happened to be at the boom time when that was all happening, and they also needed the computer or notebook to access our information systems as well remotely. I basically handled hundreds and hundreds of notebooks, set them up and issued them out to the guys.
How long did you work there for?
Doing that? Oh, gosh, I don't know, probably about 10 years doing that. And that was my last job with Telstra. After Telstra, I did a few little different things. I actually did some domestic cleaning for a while, just to fill in. But I ended up doing some aerial photography, working with a guy using a helium-filled blimp with a camera hanging off it, like a big digital camera. It was early days for digital cameras in those days.
I guess that was before drones.
Oh yeah, that's right. So drones have taken over that now. It's basically it's really easy to do aerial photography now.
Yeah.
Because we used to do a lot of it for real estate agents. So they just wanted a slight elevated view of a property, a house, and if there was water nearby, like at the bay, as long as you get up enough so you could see the proximity of the water, that's what they wanted. Yeah.
So it was literally a blimp.
A blimp, yeah. You had this huge trailer, enclosed trailer with this fully inflated blimp inside. It's like a Zeppelin, just like a Zeppelin. It used to be two of you. You need one that would one person to wrangle the blimp, and the other person was had a little control thing that you could turn the camera, and you had a little video feed. It was pretty bad video feed from the camera to see what you were trying to photograph. But it was pretty dicey stuff. You're subject to the wind. You imagine it's a big blimp. You just need a little bit of wind, and the thing's bobbing all over the place.
Yeah.
And you're dodging trees and power lines. Yeah, I ended up helping my mate David doing professional commercial audio visual installations. So my skill set from Telstra days, soldering wires, all that sort of stuff, was fully applicable. We do a lot of what we call hang and bangs. So back then when schools, classrooms, they wanted a smart classroom, so the active board and an AV system. So it was putting a projector up on the ceiling and a sound system. That's what we call the hang and bang. They were nothing. But then the really enjoyable jobs was doing big audio visual sound systems. Like he was involved with the church side of things, and I remember doing a couple of big jobs at the church he was involved with, and we put a massive speaker system in this place. Big mixing desks, lots of cables, up through weird places, and yeah, it was good fun, but also a really hard yakka. We did a really big one in City Hall before they refurbished the City Hall. We got the contract we didn't design the system, but we got the contract to install these two big line arrays and the new amplifiers. So up in the bio box, that's the control room, the sound box, we had a couple of racks about that high, just chock-a-block full of amps that we had to install. And you've probably seen line arrays at concerts, those big things that hang down, they sort of curve. We hung them off this dome ceiling in City Hall. That was a massive job. Yeah, I mean the cable, the speaker cables going to those line arrays are like that. So it's basically this sort of stuff inside. So that's pretty heavy gauge. And to each line array, there's several of these. That's even just that bit is pretty weighty. I think it was like one to each box in the line array. Yeah, so we're up inside the dome. It's hot as hell up there. We're up there in summer. We had these other sparkies helping us drag these cables, and of course the cables had to be long enough to go down through the hole in the dome, go all the way to the ground on the stage, so that you can then hook them up to the speakers. As you would then, the speakers were on a block and tackle chain, and you'd crank them up. So there had to be somebody up in the ceiling cranking them up as we're down there putting next box on, making sure the cable's plugged in. Up it goes. Yeah, we did them. I think we put them up 3 times. After the first time, the designers, Electrovoice, they did their tests with their analytic stuff, and it's not quite right. We need to pull them down and rearrange, because they do like a computer simulation of how the line array is supposed to curve, because each box you put on is curves slightly differently, so it wasn't quite right. So bring them all down again, pull them all off, put them back up again. So, and as it happens that this wire, I got some offcuts, and this is actually what I've used to connect my speakers and my stereo system upstairs from the amplifier to the speakers. So it's really nice cable, quality copper. Nothing super fancy, but does the job. I know some people spend thousands of dollars on speaker cable.
We're in the living room right now,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of interesting gear here, so tell us all about it.
Yeah. So this is a what you call a high mass turntable. It's made in Germany. I think it weighs about 25 kilos total, so it's pretty hefty. The platter itself, the part that spins, I think weighs about 9 kilos on its own. The tone arm on the turntable is made in the UK by Riga. It's just a fairly typical average turntable. It's not tone arm. It's nothing special. The cartridge is Japanese made by Kasiki. It's called a Purple Heart. I've only just put that in recently. I swapped out previous to that I had an Australian made Garrett Brothers moving magnet cartridge. This one is a moving coil cartridge. I don't know whether you want me to explain the difference or you can just Google it. The drive motor is totally separate. You can actually drop the belt off like that. I haven't done this for a while. I'll see if I can lift the platter off for you. I'll just take the mat.
It just looks like a solid brick of
It is. It's, the whole thing's just solid aluminium. It's a heavy sucker. And what it has a special bearing on the end made of some super duper hard material, and that just drops straight down onto the bearing in the bottom. So there's no ball bearings as such. That's the ball, and that's just fixed on the end of that shaft. But without the belt on, if I just give that a spin, it'll just go for ages. You can't, it just goes and goes. Underneath the turntable, I've put another piece of wood that I've made that myself, so that the turntable can then sit on these feet. Now they're made out of special material called sorbothane. So there's 3 of them under there, and you buy them rated for the weight you're going to put on them. So they're kind of a little bit squishy. The cartridge is that good at getting bass out of the groove, you get feedback. So what was coming out of here would transfer through there, back up into the needle, and you get a feedback loop. So this kills it.
And what about the feet that are actually on the turntable? Do they help as well?
They're just solid, but they've got adjustments. It's got a big foot, and in the middle of it's got a little small foot which can screw in and out.
Oh, I see.
So that you can level the turntable.
So it's like perfectly level.
Level, yeah.
Having the motor separate from the turntable altogether.
Yeah.
Does that remove the vibrations and
so
stuff?
you won't get any rumble transferred to the platter. So the only source of rumble that you would possibly get is from the bearing. I remember back in my early days, direct drive turntables were fashionably the go, not belt drive, but you've got a motor directly coupled to your platter, so it can kind of induce noise. That's the only electronics, is that box. You switch it on, and then the motor starts, and then you've got your speed selection 33 or 45. So it's some fancy DC synchronized motor that keeps perfect speed.
The needle picks up the record, and then what happens?
Cable goes down, and we plug it into the back of this little baby here. That's the phono preamp. As you can see, it's a valve type. It's the top of the range one produced by Icon Audio. What happens in there is that, a lot of you may know, you've got your RIAA curve, because the sound that's put in the groove has been changed.
Right, they roll off the bass.
That's right, yeah. So this part of its job here is to correct that curve back again.
Right,
to flat.
re-boost the bass, yeah.
Plus, but then boost the signal up to line level. That's only half of the phono preamp actually, because there's another module the same size that's just the power supply for it. You can sit them side by side. I've actually put it around the back here, so you can actually see it's identical size unit. So you've got your AC coming in, but then coming out of it is the power that plugs into the phono preamp. And the reason it's moved around here is to just move the AC element further away from it, because if it's right next to it, you'll get hum induced into the phono preamp stage. That only happens if you're running a moving coil cartridge, because the signal out of the moving coil is much smaller, so it's more susceptible to the hum from your mains power.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This seems to be the only user interface, a switch.
Yeah, that's the on-off. That's the on-off switch.
Yeah.
So it's just a power supply, so you just have to turn it on and off. The whole system does draw a fair bit of power when it's all fired up.
From the needle, goes down into the amp, which we had a look at a second ago, which is
preamp,
the preamp, which is powered by the preamp power supply, which is this.
Yep.
And then what happens?
It goes into the main amp. This is what you call a integrated amplifier. And what that means is it's got your preamp stage and your power amp stage all in one box. So what's nice about this amp, when you turn it on, it jumps and you can feel it. it's like it's really excited to play some music for you. I just love it. A tube amp of this type is special in that you can run it in triode mode and ultralinear mode. Changes the way the tubes work. Once again, you can Google that. So what it does is this light will remain red while the amp is warming up. So once it's warmed up, that'll change to green, and then you can play some music through it.
How long does it take to warm up?
Oh, only like maybe a minute or something. Actually, this is really sweet. This is the remote control that comes with this amplifier. That's quality. Now, I don't. You obviously can't see it in the video, but you feel it.
Oh yeah. Wow, it's got some weight to it, and it's like the buttons just have like a really satisfying click.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a beauty. That. Yeah.
All the buttons are made out of steel or something.
Yep, they're all. I think they're all aluminium, proper metal. They're not no plastic or anything. Not like a normal remote, which is
Yeah. I reckon you could drive a car over that and you'd be fine.
Oh, for sure. While we're here waiting for that to warm up, I'll show you in here. So I've still got my SA CD player. So this will play normal CDs as well as SA Super Audio CDs.
The hell's a Super CD?
This is what they call a hybrid SA CD. So it's got a red book layer and it's got this Super Audio CD layer. With this, you can play either layer. There's a picture it shows you. So the two different layers.
Wow, I had no idea that you could put 2 layers on a CD.
So basically there's 2 lasers in there. This will check the CD and then it'll see that it's an SA CD player, and that should light up once it's loaded. There we go.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's tell us. But if I wanted to listen to the red book layer, I just press that button and it'll switch. See its layer changing.
Oh yeah.
And it'll change to the red book layer. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's like a audiophile version of normal CD.
After it's been amplified with the tubes, then it comes out to the speakers.
The speakers, yeah. Okay. Now I've gone through a few sets of speakers and eventually ended up with these. That sort of gives you a scale if I stand next to them. I mean, I'm not real tall. I'm 170 centimetres.
First of all, they're see-through.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're thin.
In fact, the main panel part is probably only about that thick. So what it has is this mesh one side, mesh the other side, and in between it you can see it's got like a clear membrane. That technology there is electrostatic. They do require to have power to them, not for amplification, but just to kind of energise or polarise it so then it becomes active. Once again, Google will explain all that. I did read it.
And the 2 layers of metal are magnetized.
No, I don't know what the metal does. I think it's there to hold it. I don't know. I just listened to it. What the beauty of the membrane is, it's an interesting technology in that you could poke holes in that if you want, and it wouldn't affect it. So the top part is electrostatic, and it takes care of your frequencies from really high down to, I think it's 375
Hertz.
And then there's a crossover electronics that cut it off, and the rest of the frequencies, the low ones, go into a conventional cone speaker.
Yeah.
Now this particular model has a 10-inch driver in the front and a 10-inch driver in the back. So one's facing forward, one's facing out the back. So you've got double punch.
Wow.
So you can see that the speaker has power to it. So like I said, the panel needs power to be energized, but no amplification. But what's also in this box is an active amplifier to drive the 2 10-inch speakers. And it has some fancy electronics in it. You can adjust the amount of bass you get out with this knob, up and down, the input speaker terminals. But then over here, you've got an Ethernet port and a USB port.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And then you'll notice here there's a little switch.
Arc room EQ.
Yeah, so you can switch the arc, what they call the arc room EQ, in and out. These speakers have an even extra feature where you can buy an additional microphone with cables, download some free software that you run on a notebook, and you effectively connect the one speaker to the laptop, the microphone to the laptop, and you use an Ethernet cable to plug the 2 speakers together. And what you do is just put the microphone in your listening position, you run the software, and it'll play tones through the speakers and take readings. And what it's attempting to do there is get a feel for what the room is, because each room is different, so acoustically it'll be different.
Yeah.
And then what you can do is it'll come up with like a correction curve that tries to flatten out the frequency response.
So the goal is to have a flat frequency response with that software.
Yeah, because each room will react.
Yeah, the resonance of the walls and stuff like that
Yeah.
change the way it sounds in your listening position.
Yeah.
The listening position is that middle chair over there, by the way.
Yeah, so that's one of the key things. If you want the best sound, you sit right in that chair. The whole setup is rigged so that particular one chair is ideal. Yep.
And look how long this,
Yeah,
look how long it is.
It's a big sucker, isn't it?
So I'm sitting in the listening position right now,
Yeah.
and I'm noticing you got a sub over here as well.
So it's got a 10-inch active speaker in the front, much like the earlier Martin Logan I said, but in the bottom of it facing down is a passive 10-inch as well.
Passive meaning it's not actually being driven.
That's right. It looks like a speaker. Effectively, it looks like a speaker, but there's nothing electrically driving it. So it can just move in sympathy to the active speaker. But I don't use it anymore. It's not connected.
Oh,
It's not connected.
oh, just for show.
Going back a couple of sets of speakers, I had a pair of, traditional cone type speakers, so they probably had cones in them about that big. So not much bottom end. So I got this, but once I got these babies, you don't need this.
I mean, what did you say? They're 10-inch drivers?
These have got two 10-inch.
Two 10-inch drivers.
Yeah. So I've got 4 10 inches running.
Two there, two there.
So you don't need that.
And they're only these drivers are only covering 330 hertz and below.
It's 375.
375.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. By the way, look at your cable management. Beautiful.
You like that? Yeah. So I did all this stuff myself. Yeah, good on your cat. Yeah. This power here goes into a power board side there, and only the audio gear is plugged into that. So that's got one of those power boards that you just turn the amp on, and once that power point becomes energized, the other ones turn on. Saves you have to go around turning on the different speakers and all the rest of it.
Oh, that's really clever. What?
Yeah. I think they just call it an energy green board or something. So I'll have a master socket. So the other ones are like slaves. So when it detects power's being drawn from that socket, it turns the other ones on.
Huh.
You can buy them at the hardware.
I gotta get one of those.
Haven't you got it? Yeah.
No.
But the trick is, it won't work with a device. Like say if you had the TV plugged on, you know how it's still drawing a little bit of power?
Right.
They may or may not work. Whereas mine's triggered by the Premaluna solid state amp, which has a physical on-off switch. It's not a soft switch.
Yeah, look at this beautiful cable management. We got little covers for the cables.
So it's like a pocket, so you can thread the cable through it, and then you just Velcro it, and it just sticks down the carpet.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, so it all looks nice and tidy, but inside here, it's a freaking mess. Freaking mess in there, and a freaking mess in there.
And what's going on here? You've got a computer fan
Oh yeah.
mounted to the back.
Yeah. So once again, that's into that power board. So when I turn the system on, that'll start sucking air. So it's drawing the hot air out from that amp, because a tube amp generates a lot of heat. I don't show many people this. This is quite unique what's in here. I know there's a lot of talk about with audiophiles and system tweaks, some fairly esoteric tweaks that you can have. You can spend a lot of money on all sorts of tweaks. I found this one's really, really good. I don't think many people know about it. You might be a bit shocked at what I'm using here. But come and have a close look.
Okay.
Right there,
What the heck is that?
they're almonds. Yeah, so they're on your inputs into the amplifier. So they stabilise the signal and do all sorts of esoteric shit. Just knowing that they're there makes the system sound better. No! He's eating one.
I can taste the sound, you know?
Oh, really? Bit of rock and roll and a hint of drum and bass.
Alright, so I noticed you still have your old turntable here.
Yeah, it's probably the only remaining thing I've got left from my original sound system I bought in 1974.
Yeah, this looks like more something I'm used to. This over here looks like a UFO from outer space.
Yeah.
And this looks like a turntable.
It still goes. And it's a good old, what they used to call a semi-automatic, so it'd lift the needle up at the end and then return it.
Oh, after the record's finished playing. Oh, that's nice. So how come you keep your records in here?
I ran out of room. Oh, these are just sort of like overflow that aren't necessarily in rotation of playing, so I've got to sort them out. That's an older copy of Led Zeppelin. I've got a better copy out there. That's one of my originals from back in the day, Elvis Costello and the Attractions. But I've got a better pressing of that.
When you say better pressing, what do you mean?
It just sounds better. It's funny, it's like older pressings can sound better than new pressings, or sometimes a new pressing sounds better than old pressing.
So you buy multiple copies of the same record until you find one that sounds good to you?
Sometimes. It's only a rare one. It's like, this is just a reissue done by, I think it's by Rhino or someone. Now the first one I got, it sounds good, like, you know, it's got the dynamic range and tonality is all good, but it's a bit noisy. It's got a bit of crackle and stuff in it, and it's a bit annoying. It was pretty cheap via Amazon, so I took the shot and got another one, and it was the same. So that darted out, but later on they pressed one, and I forget it's a coloured one, and it's actually good, so it's out with...
Do you think you'll sell those other two?
Nah, it's not worth bothering. It's too much hassle selling records.
Yeah.
Yeah. Record buyers can be really pedantic.
How do you know?
Because I'm one of them. I'm one of them. Was I a pot-smoking hippie in the 70s? Now, a number of times I've been asked that question. Smoked a little bit of weed on an odd occasion, but yeah, wasn't totally into it. Maybe smoked a bit with, listening to Pink Floyd a couple of times. Well, I was actually in the back of Milton's infamous green Corolla station wagon before a joint effort, which was like a live band gig. And we take up and we spacing out to Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. Back in those days, cars were built to not have stereos in them. Cars were built really solid, so like if you wanted to mount speakers in the rear deck or in the doors, the steel was really tough. You had to cut out holes in the metalwork to put the speaker in and make a panel to put in the top and try and get the wires up there. Yeah, it was a major job to put a stereo in the car. In the AHL, then it came with a valve radio in dash, so it was really cool. So when you started the car up, the power was already onto it, but then as you drove down the road and the valves warmed up, the sound would just kind of fade in. It was really cool.
So we just got home from the record store and Dad bought all these records, and then there's one delivered in the mail.
Yeah. Oh, she's done some art. She does art as well. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Have you heard any of her music before?
No.
So you don't know any, you have no clue what it's going to sound like.
That's her amateur records. Yeah. So she's an independent artist, just off her own back. It just sounded interesting. It's like playing the lotto, really. You buy records and sometimes you learn to love it and it turns out to be great. And sometimes you lose and it's not so good. But overall, I think it's win you win. You got to take those risks to get the gems. I use my stereo to listen to my music. Some people use their music to listen to their stereo. I think some people are just more about buying music that sounds sonic, like it's sonic candy, rather than they actually getting into the music. You know, if the quality isn't quite as good, but the music is, you're feeling the music, you're digging it, I'd rather go that way. I know a lot of people use YouTube for music. I don't do that. No, I tend to more just want to hear it, not see it. I want to just put it on and not have any other distractions and just do deep listening, just listen to it with nothing else going on, not thinking about anything else, because you only get to listen to an album the first time once. Listening for pleasure, purposeful listening. Yeah, I don't have a system. It's like albums are so like this, and when you're looking you can miss an album, so you got to sometimes dig and go, oh, what's this one hiding here, and you got to pull it out to actually see what it is. You're trying to find something that suits your mood at the time, what you feel like listening to. And what's really good is if you happen to get in a groove where you pick the music that's right for you at that time and you put that on, and it's just like a super listening session, and then you know you might pull out another record and that just flows on, and it's almost like a drug high in a way, because you just hit that right combination. What makes a record good or bad? Wow, if you enjoy the music, it's a good record. You know, and you might really enjoy that and someone else doesn't, so to them it's a bad record. I respect that. That's one thing I do, is respect that, and I'm not going to put shit on someone because they like Milli Vanilli. If they like it and it's doing it for them, fair enough. Music is something different to everyone. I've got a guilty confession. I've actually got Savage Garden CD. I inherited it from my stepdaughter Jade. She left it behind because she kind of disowned it. It's actually a really good album, and sonically it's really good as well. Not something you play every day, but I appreciate it.
I hate that CD.
Mishap with my record collection. So I ended up involved with a Pentecostal church group, and they said that rock and roll was bad. If you played it backwards, it had secret satanic messages.
And that was the thing that they actually believed.
Yeah, they actually cited one example of a particular Led Zeppelin song, I can't remember which one it was, saying, oh yeah, something about the devil if you... And I actually tried it, and I thought, yeah, if you really used your imagination... And a lot of people were burning, they were having record burnings to get rid of these records.
What year was this going down?
Probably early 80s. Yeah, so I've got this sort of hole in where I was exposed to normal music. So you weren't supposed to listen to that kind of music, just Christian music. But I soon worked out, it was like, well, Christian music's just imitating normal music with different lyrics, but the music was lame. Yeah, but I was forced to get rid of my records, and I thought, well, I'm not going to be stupid and burn them. I took a lot of them to work and sold them. They just sold like hotcakes. But I managed to get back some because one of my old mates I bumped into many, many years later. He said, yeah, I've still got some of your records. I said, really? He said, yeah, I've never played them. Yeah. He's into country music now, can you believe it?
Both types of music, country and Western.
Yeah, that's right. To get into the gear I've got now, you've got to have a bit more disposable income, and now they own my own house and don't have to support kids through school and all the rest of it, then you've got the money to do it. So it's like, yeah, it's sort of a luxury item, but like, hey, how many more years I've got to live? I might as well enjoy it while I can.
Keep the party jumping.